Let me get the...
Oh, she's gone again.
Jan,
This is the judge, folks. Those of you who don't know.
can you unmute the judge?
Well, she's not muted.
She's not muted. She's just got, there's no sound connected according to this.
Can she do sign language?
I don't know.
I'm not sure if she's seeing us.
I can't see it at all.
I can see her. She might be better if she can hear us. Jill, you might be better closing down and coming back in.
Oh, there she is.
I'm not sure she can.
She needs to switch her audio on.
Oh,
Done it. I think she's gone.
Oh, she's gone.
I think she might be using a phone as well, actually.
yes. Perhaps she heard me when I said go out and come back in.
Yeah, well, that's.
I didn't mean that to sound rude. I hope it didn't.
While we're waiting for her to come, can I just say a couple of things? Our next scheduled meeting is for 2 weeks' time. Yeah, she's obviously having some problems.
I've got the ability, I think. Yeah.
I'm going to send her a chat message. Can you switch
that's
on
a
your
good idea.
audio?
Yeah.
What are you eating, Bill?
I've got a cake that Janet makes called cold tea cake. This cake has got no fat in it at all. It's made without butter and without, I don't think there's any egg in it, I'm not sure. But it does have lots of sugar in it. Lot of sugar. And
Are you trying to say it's healthy because there's no fat in it?
Yeah. And I've got, to make up for the lack of fat, I've got salted caramel ice cream with it. So,
really healthy then, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, we've got Jill, but no, her video's gone again, and there's still no indication of any
Judge.
Yeah, she is the judge, but we can't. She's having connected.
Any
All the
audio.
people not to make contact, eh? It's the judge. 10's all round and down the pub. Oh, you can't go down the pub.
Sadly not.
Do we have her scores, Susan? Do you know them?
Yes, I do.
So worst case scenario, then she can't connect at all. We can go through the pictures and do the scores.
Yeah, obviously we've got no narrative.
No, we'd have to make that up as we go along, but at least we can do that. If she can't connect, so worst case scenario only.
The judge hates this one.
They're all great.
No, unfortunately I don't seem to be able to do anything with her video or audio.
I don't think you can because you've got to
Have you tried the chat?
I've tried chat.
Susan did that.
I'm just trying something. I happen to work with Jill's husband.
All right.
So I'm going to see if I can get a mobile number for him. I haven't got his mobile
brilliant.
number. And chat and sort of have a chat and see what's.
Oh, hang on. I have lost my internet connection totally trying to temporarily use mobile broadband
Ah,
to get any sound. Keeps asking to use broadband. Oh dear.
oh dear. Well, that's not a good start. We'll give her a couple more minutes anyway.
Yeah.
Do you want me to, I wonder if she's written down notes.
Welcome to the mayhem of Halstead Club, Dennis.
Yeah, it's good.
Hi, Dennis.
Normally like this.
It usually works all right, Dennis.
Yes, this is the first time it's happened.
Yeah, it's all my fault.
I blame Dennis.
Yeah.
I suppose the good thing at the moment is we can also blame technology, not the operators. So that makes
True,
it sound
that's
slightly
true,
better,
yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mind you, after the conversation Lorraine and I had this afternoon, one technical operator here, not.
You
I
did
still
very well.
No, I didn't, because I've
Oh,
still
dear.
managed to cock it up somehow. And this is, yeah, never mind. I'll try and sort it out when we finish the meeting.
I blame Roger.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'll just blame someone other than me. That'll
No
be good.
reason to, but you know, he's
Yeah.
as good a victim as anybody.
I have asked Jill if all fails, whether she's got any typed up notes. But that might be, it may be that all we can do is scores and we've
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah.
Well, we can sort of.
Well, I
Yeah.
won't have to
Comments.
thank her for anything, will I?
Let's
Oh,
blame
that's
Brian.
good though, she's
Who can we blame that's not here?
Brian.
Brian.
Brian's not here. Let's blame Brian. Poor Brian.
Oh, bless.
I mean, the only other thing is we could postpone it, I suppose, because it would be a shame for her not to do her.
Let's
now.
ask Keith if he enjoyed his book.
I blame the Democrats. Democrats have stolen our Zoom.
Working on it, Steve.
Do you like? It's beautiful, isn't it?
A great insight.
Oh,
Yeah,
we've
it's a
got
great
Jill.
book.
Jill's image
The,
back.
There's a lot more in the text than what he managed to put over on the day in the walk around the mud.
Indeed, it's a lovely book.
Did somebody say she's in again? Or-
Yeah.
Yes,
I
we've
can see her,
got visual, but still no sound. And we've got Mr. Jill.
I wonder if she tried rebooting her router. You might
I
get her
beg your
broadband going.
pardon.
Yeah, that's always my first port of
Yeah.
call when it happens to me. Go up and reboot the router.
Mm.
Sounds like grounds for divorce.
It's audio. She's trying to connect with audio. That's what she needs to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yay, she's got a tick. Can you
Hey.
Bravo.
Oh dear. Bless you.
Bill, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Hello.
Welcome.
Oh,
Hi.
We're very, very pleased to see you.
Well, this has all been a bit cocked up because I just literally switched my computer on and the Wi-Fi's just gone off completely.
That's normally what happens to me. So it must be a Jill thing. Yeah.
F for
Yeah.
technology.
Anyway, welcome. A
Perhaps
very
we need
warm
to rush
welcome.
on.
This is the second time you've done this for us through Zoom, I think. So I think you were
Yeah.
our first judge to do a Zoom meet. So welcome back. It's very nice to see you again. And
Yeah, I don't think I was actually on Zoom last time. I think I was
I
just.
think
I
you recorded it. Yeah.
think I recorded it. Yeah, I sent you
we've
stuff,
moved
you
the
recorded
technology
it. Yeah.
on a bit since then. So yeah. But yeah, so welcome back anyway. It's really, we're really pleased that you've come back to judge for us again. And whenever you're ready, we can start.
Well, I'll just say what we're going to do, Jill. We'll do a run through of all the
Okay.
images, and then we'll take one at a time, and you can do your narrative and your score, and whether you've held back, etc. And we'll run through the held back ones at the end, if that's okay.
Hopefully I can see the screen when it comes up. I can
Yeah,
see me.
I'm just going to share my screen now.
Let's have a look. Let's see what happens.
Oh, Roger's handsome brothers appeared.
Will everybody go mute and stop video?
Now, the small screen. Hopefully my Wi-Fi will come back.
Just going to try the slideshow now, so let me know if you have any problems, Jill.
Okay. The screen, I think. Right, okay.
We're getting some feedback from somewhere. Has anybody got a television or radio on?
Can you mute yourselves, please? Except for Susan, the judge, of course.
You might want me to be muted, you never know. You can't judge. It's fair. You can watch. You gave yourself.
Wrong butting in.
No, it's a teddy bear. I do like to watch these bears, you know. Got very small pictures on this phone.
Good job, you've already seen them.
I've already seen them, yeah. Oh.
There we go. Now I'll go through them one at a time for you, Jill. Taking a
I think
pause.
Jill's just disappeared.
Oh no.
Hey?
I can't see her. She still
I'm here.
seems to be connected.
I'm still here.
Oh, good.
Oh, taking a
Thought we
pause.
lost you.
No, I'm here. I've just put the phone, I've propped the phone up. I'm still there.
Yes, first image is up, Jill.
Hey? Right, can you
First
hear
image
me?
is up.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes,
can
we
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Good, right, good. Okay, and this was autumn, wasn't it?
So taking a pause.
Who's doing what?
Taking a pause.
Oh, that's right, of course it is. Right, okay. What did I say this one? Yep. I said the colours are rather wonderful. Got lovely rich golds in them. And they stand out well against the old blue sky there. And the light on them gives you quite a glow on them. Low light shadows at the bottom, and the balance of the picture was pretty much offset by the inclusion of the small maple tree on the left hand side. A different colour as well, so a bit of contrast there. Unfortunately, or whichever way you look at it, you lost some of the leaves off the tree, so you get to see the lovely shape of the tree too. Didn't see it at first, but then I realised there was a couple of figures there, and one sort of looking through the branches. So I thought, well, that's quite nice, but then you see their faces. Sometimes you want to see every feature, but they're a little bit indistinct for the head area, what the figure that's looking through. And I thought as you made a bit of a feature, perhaps you just needed to see a little bit more of that sort of figure coming through. But overall, I thought, the colours were lovely on it. Are you reading schools or am I reading schools?
Yeah.
Sorry?
You're reading the score for each one.
I'm reading score.
Yep.
You not got them?
Not on Zoom, not on. I've got them. Jan's, have you not got them in front of you?
I have got them, but I know you wanted them to hold some back. That was all. I'm making sure you've got them.
As you say the score, I'll hold back, then I will do that as we go along.
Okay, all right. Okay, that was a 7.5.
Llandudno Pier.
Okay. Yep. I thought the sky was really lovely in this one. They're lovely sort of pinks against the blue. Went very well. It's sort of dusky kind of glowing pink, which is rather lovely. And obviously that pier against the sky. I'm glad you've got the sort of the seating booths, whatever you call them, pavilions, against the sky. So I think that highlights the pier a little bit against the sky. And obviously you have got the end of the pier as well, though it is a little dark in contrast here. Yeah, and I think you've got some of the colours are reflected in the water here as well. So I thought, you got the pink in the water. I think you might have blurred the water a little bit here, or some of it. But the thing I found slightly stranger was the reflections from the pier are quite sharp, and they look a bit odd, I think, against the more blurred water. So I think perhaps I'd either just leave the water as it was, or sort of blur with the whole thing, including the reflections of the pier. But the two don't quite go together. But overall, I think the sky was lovely. It's just as bits I don't think are quite so good. And that was a 7.
Dania.
Right. I'm going to try and get back on my internet in 2 seconds here. So, right, yes, a rather lovely portrait here of this lady. She's obviously very happy to have her picture taken. Looks very relaxed. She doesn't look tired, or it doesn't look a forced smile. And obviously, sometimes with portraiture, people get tired, and then people look a bit sort of fed up with the whole thing, and then you lose that rapport between the photographer and the sitter. But in this case, you haven't. I think he's kept it very well. Good skin tones here. I mean, generally they're all kept in. A little bit of a highlight on the forehead and the cheek, perhaps where the light is hitting it here. Maybe sort of some adjustment to the one on the forehead. Don't mind the one on the cheek so much. I think it highlights that cheekbone quite well. The clothing, I think, goes. The jewellery on her head and her neck, and you've got a little bit of pink in the earring, which matches the dress rather nicely. The hair, I think, is quite good. I mean, it's not totally sort of tidy. It's got little wispy bits coming out. It's quite a formal portrait, but there's a casual sort of feeling about it as well. Perhaps the only slight downside is the hair on the right hand side. It's got a little S bend. It leaves you very slightly out of the picture, but that's the sort of minor point. So that was a held back one.
Artwork.
Right. Okay. This was quite a disturbing kind of piece of work, really. This sort of unknown woman. I don't quite know what the story is behind it. But it's certainly very, very large, isn't it? And then we sort of got this sort of characters put in, these painters here. Probably the same painter. But yeah, they've been quite well positioned against each other. And obviously it's quite comic because they're kind of finishing off the painting here. Though you do wonder how they actually managed to do the top of the painting if they were real painters here. And I think what's probably quite interesting, you've just got one sort of on the ground holding a ladder, and they're wearing a different outfit. So I think it's quite a good thing to put a different kind of outfit, a different positioning as well. But overall, I do find it quite a disturbing kind of picture. But I think you try to make it sort of funny at the same time. But the two perhaps don't 100% go together. But an interesting concept. And that one was a 7.
Autumn at Blickling Hall.
Yeah, it looks that time of year, doesn't it? Very dramatic sky you've got there. Old clouds racing across the sky. And I'm trying to find my notes there, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say the house is sort of sitting on the bend, so I think its position there is quite good. And fortunately, the trees that you've got the ones at the back of the one at the side, so you don't drift out of the picture at the back. You just sort of go to the house and come backwards. Obviously, the lighting's giving you very strong colours on the trees on the left-hand side, but they're offset pretty well against the dark ones at the back. I know the trees at the back are quite dark. I think the house stands out quite well against them. That's the neutral ground of the house. I think with the lighting, you probably lost quite a bit of detail in the middle of the water here, which is a bit of a shame. I guess that's probably where it's hit the water here. So that's probably the weaker point of the picture here. And that one got a... That got a 7.5. You want to bear with us a second. I'm going to try and launch myself back onto the internet.
Okay.
Yeah, well, bear with us and I'll see what I can do here. It will work. Anyway. Right, okay. Hopefully. Right. You let us in.
Yeah, I've just hit the button. You should be able to get in now.
Right, okay, bear with us. It's coming up. Right, okay. Let's switch me speaker on. I'll hear myself speak. Computer audio. Right, am I hearable?
Yes.
Yeah, you've got an echo.
Right, it's my phone. Let's take my phone. Shut up.
Are you still there, Jill?
Thinking not.
All right, I think I'm trying to work out. I've now got 3 Jills on here.
Oh,
hopefully I've just asked Jill to unmute.
I have. I'm unmuted.
Right.
Okay. Are you ready
Yeah.
to go again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is
This
Highland
is-
Cat.
Highland Cow in snow.
Right. Okay. Right. He's rather a beast, isn't he? Stuck up there. I like the misty backgrounds you've got here. Obviously caused by the falling snow. It makes a very sort of abstract kind of feeling here. And it does stop you moving out of the picture because of it. Also, sort of within the snow, you've got this lovely tree of sort of shadow of a tree coming in as well, and it's quite good because it fills up a space on the left-hand side, which would otherwise be quite empty. So that works quite well. Yeah, and again, not much light in it here, but you've got lovely detail, I think, on the fur and on the grasses and everything there. So I think that one works very well. And he's certainly a beast for the winter, isn't he? You can imagine that thick coat really protects him against that sort of cold, snowy weather. That was a held back.
Mind the gap.
Right, yeah, this is a bit of fun, if you can call it that. Yeah, spirals are interesting, aren't they? They always are something you've got to take. And this one works well. You know, obviously you can sort of enjoy as it goes downwards here, and you can look over the top. And you've got 2 routes, haven't you? You've got walk down the stairs or be clever, lean over and fall down the gap, which obviously this poor figure has. I think at first I didn't notice it, and then when you see it, you're really drawn to the sort of figure there. And I like the fact that it's kind of like sort of splayed out on the floor. I think that emphasises the fact that it's had a very unfortunate time. Yeah, you kept the tonal ranges in the grass, in the stairs, and the sort of the walls here as well, which I think works well.
Hi, you're not at work at the moment, are you, Kevin?
Hey, come back. No, I'm definitely not at work.
Right, you need to be looking at your phone, Kevin.
I'll just mute Tori.
don't get extra points for that, you know. There's always someone in there, eh? As I was
Sorry, I
saying,
couldn't find her quickly.
Are we all right still?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say the left-hand side, sort of the stairwell. I mean, it's got quite good tonal range, but there's quite a lot of it. So I think I'd have probably cropped a little bit off, maybe half of it. And then I think you sort of, your figure at the bottom becomes even sort of a more prominent, more unfortunate maybe to speak. But yeah, that was a held back too. Not, well, maybe not in his case.
Mother and child, Komodo Island.
This is a pleasing portrait, isn't it? Or the sort of candid of, I assume, a mother and child. Yeah, pretty much natural lighting, I think, coming through the window. Probably quite difficult lighting as well, probably quite a diffuse lighting. I think when you look at it, you can see that it's perhaps bleached the genes out a little bit here as it's coming across them. But, you know, we've kept the skin tones in the characters here. And you've got, it's a sort of mixture of conflicting emotions. I mean, the lady looks quite concerned, doesn't she? Quite worried. But the child is just in this sort of world of its own. It's quite happy. And so you've got that kind of mixture of different sort of feelings coming across here. But you also get a sense of the environment in this picture here. You include a little bit of background, but not too much to overwhelm the figures. So, you know, I think that works quite well. That was an 8.5.
Bengal cat.
Right. Okay, yeah, he's quite an animal as well, isn't he? And you sort of think the lighting gives up all the beautiful markings here. And like position of him here, I think he's rather good. He's sort of on his hind legs as if he's going to pounce on something. Well, it's a mouse or food, who knows? But yeah, it certainly gives that impression here. And I think the sort of the curl of the tail here as well adds to that feeling it's just about to sort of take off and do something. I'm sort of looking at the thing that it's on, and he's got some lighting on it here, so I think it's not a totally black bottom, and I think that works quite well for it to stand on. I think I'd like to see the same kind of sort of texture and lighting on the background here, because the cat is in danger of blending maybe a little bit into the background here. But apart from that, I think he works very well. And I do like the eye, the lighting on the eye really brings that out and really highlights the sort of the head and the whiskers, and that kind of alertness of the cat as well. So that one got a Bengal cat. That one got an 8.5.
Autumn flowers.
It's rather charming, isn't it, of these flowers? I have absolutely no idea what they are. But yeah, I like the frame of the branches around it here, just holding them in. And I'm glad they're sharp as well. I think that's important because you've used them as a frame. And you've got good lighting here, haven't you? You brought out the lovely textures in those old branches as well. So I think that works well. Few leaves in the background. Don't think it really matters. They're not particularly obtrusive. Leaves at the bottom. I don't mind the one on the right-hand side because there's some similar ones behind the flowers. So maybe they're part of the plant itself. The one sort of in the middle, find that a little bit distracting because it doesn't seem to be linked to anything. I know you can sort of remove these things. I can't really call it, clone them out, but it doesn't always work. So maybe a case of unfortunately gardening, just ripping the thing out. Hopefully it wasn't in someone's garden if you thought that, but yeah, it's a slightly distracting thing, but otherwise, you know, a sort of lovely study. And that one got a 8.
Glass floor reflections.
Yeah, this is an interesting idea, isn't it? Quite odd effects you get looking down on the glass. Looks like the people are being squashed, doesn't it, by the glass. And then you've got the lady in the sort of blue coat. Her face is kind of split up. She's a bit like she's in the sort of house of mirrors, you know, where you get all sort of distorted sort of faces and shapes. That comes across there. I thought the figure sort of sitting at the front was quite good. You know, in fact, it's sort of sitting on 2 diagonals as well. Obviously draws you to them, and it makes them quite strong. Didn't mind the hand that was separate. It's sort of separate, but it's sort of joined together. And obviously got the people at the back. I think it helps that a lot of them at the back are walking away from you, not coming towards you. I thought the child in the pink, I didn't notice it at first, but when I did, I thought, obviously it gives you a sense of scale, but unfortunately I found her a little bit distracting. I mean, again, I suppose if you were cruel, you could remove them. But I think you're drawn a little bit too. I think probably because of the pale pink top they've got on. So have the figure at the front and say, not so sure about the little figure in the middle. But it gives a strange kind of impression. So it's a different viewpoint. That one got an 8.
Cheetah at rest.
Yep. Yeah, I like the slant of the head on this one. Obviously, we haven't gone for the whole cheetah. We've just gone for a bit. And I think it's probably very fortunate you kept the ears sharp, because obviously it is a close-up and the ear is sort of pointing towards you as well. I don't think it really matters that the back is becoming slightly softer because the focus is on the head. And you've got the sharpness on the head, good exposure. And I like the light in the eye. It really brings out that beautiful colour that they have. Pretty much fills the frame. You lost a bit of whiskers, doesn't matter again. I think the background is probably a bit of a horrible colour. Not much you can really do about it. That's obviously where it was. I mean, if you're very, very clever, you can lighten it down, but I think that would be very difficult because you've got those bits of whiskers sticking out. So it is slightly distracting for the colour of the cheetah, but as I say, not much you can probably do about it. So that was an 8.
Stag in sleep.
Right. He's been caught rather well, isn't he? And very alert. Whether he's sort of seen his mate or he's out for a fight, who knows? But yeah, sort of peering over the tree there. And I like the combination of furs. You know, you've got that ruffled fur at the front and the smoother sort of fur at the back there. And hasn't got a catch-light in the eye. Maybe a little one needs to be added, but I think you can see the eyelashes, which is quite strange, of the deer itself. I think the background, you can tell it's a wooded area by the trees, but they don't distract too much. So I think that part works very well. I think the foreground, I don't mind the tree in front of him looking over it, but there's quite a lot of it and it's very blurry. I think if it was really sharp, I'd probably leave it all in. But I think there's a lot of blur there, and I think I'd probably crop half of it down the bottom and the side, and then I think the deer stands out even more than he does already. But that was a held back.
Lady of the Mask.
Yep, bit relevant today, I think. The mask across her face, and I don't know what her sort of costume is. It 80s, 19th century, not too sure. But anyway, very kind of flamboyant clothing, isn't it? She's got on. And yeah, the hat works quite well with it. You know, the sort of clothing I think generally works quite well. And you've got this background, I think we should probably go with the period you're trying to convey. I mean, the lady herself, she's got quite a sort of protective, maybe defensive sort of position. When you look at the way she's sort of grasping her shawl and the way the arms are crossed here. And she looks quite worried in the picture here as well. You know, maybe it's a play on sort of the masked ball, and maybe that sort of elements to the mask is why she's worried if you're thinking about modern situation. I think I would have probably, if possible, to have had a mask that was perhaps more in keeping with the rest of her costume. It looks a bit sort of 20th century, a little bit Liberty perhaps, and I think if you had the sort of maybe the reds and greens that you've got in her costume, I think that would sort of tally better with it than perhaps the mask we've got on at the moment. But an interesting idea. And that one got a 7.5.
Textures of dilapidation.
Quite a state of ruin, this, isn't it? It's all dirty and grubby, and yeah, the various sort of stages have been sort of put in the thirds of each section here. The least dilapidated bit is the metal rings at the bottom here. So yeah, you know, it sort of fits the subject that you've given it here. And I'll say, obviously, you can see these things. I mean, sort of a very grubby window, and it just looks like no one really cares about most of the whole thing. I did sort of feel that you need something a bit extra to it here. I mean, with the rings at the bottom, you've got, you know, they're sort of coming at you, so you've got more sort of a three-dimensional effect, but the rest of it is quite flat. So if you had different lighting, or maybe even a cat walking across or a hand coming across, I think you'll just add a bit more detail, a bit more sort of 3D feeling to the rest of the picture here, or even a face at the window. So it works to a point, but I think, say, you know, different lighting, another object, I think will just lift the picture just a little bit more than we're seeing perhaps at the moment. And that one got a 6.5.
London Light.
Right. Okay. Yeah, very dramatic sky, this one, isn't it? Quite a menacing sky. Not sure you've got adjusted the exposure to make the sky even more menacing. But yeah. And obviously, where it's hitting the buildings here, really makes them stand out. The ones in the middle look like sort of cardboard cutouts almost, or sort of books on a shelf. It makes it look really, really thin. It's quite odd, but I think that's probably just the lighting here. Yeah, I've got a balance of sort of sizes here. I think the little building on the left-hand side, the little sort of round building, I think it's probably very important here because it does give you a sense of scale. And it looks an older building as well against the different ones here. And it's interesting, isn't it, the different sort of styles and building sort of styles that you get over time. I think the lighting is probably affected your meeting slightly because the Belfast and the sort of pier towards it is a little bit dark, and I think that's probably because, say, the light's hitting the buildings here. What I was going to say then. I was going to say, yes, I think it's sloping slightly as well, the picture. The buildings are slightly sort of leaning over to the left here. But yeah, so very dramatic lighting. So I think it works reasonably well. And that one got a 7.
I'm coming, Ma.
He certainly is, and what a cutie is it really, isn't it? Little fluffy thing coming along. I think it might be a dab chick or something. I'm probably completely wrong, but that's a wild guess. But yeah, again, you know, it's pretty much focused on the face and the front of the body. But I do like the tufty bits coming up above it. Perhaps it's been in the water and it's just drying off, but it's it has a bit of interest and a bit of fun to it. And it's quite an interest. It must be going at quite a speed here because, you know, the ripples are quite sort of moving quite quickly, aren't they? They're quite fierce. And the eyes are odd. When you look at the reflection here, they're almost sort of penetrating as the eyes on the little bird itself. So yeah, I think that part works quite well. You know, you've got a fairly muted background, so you don't detract from his face. I'm not so sure about the green bit at the front. It's a little bit blurry, a little bit distracting maybe. Interesting, if you remove it, this sort of the eyes, the reflection of the eyes sort of becomes even stronger. So something to experiment with. But yeah, I think as he stands, he's pretty good. He got an 8.
Feathered eyes.
Right, yeah. Yeah, peacock feathers. Usually, often we see the peacock, but not just the feathers. Yeah, I think this works rather well. You know, like the fact you've got it on a diagonal here, rather than sort of straight up here. And if you look, it's sort of got bits of feather going over the eye, so it's like a little fringe going over it. And I like the fact that the rest of the sort of feathers are like little fronds coming out from the central sort of stem there. I think if it was all together, they probably wouldn't be quite so interesting. And the colours you've used in the background, I mean, the greens are complementary to the greens of the peacock, and the sort of the purpley blue at the bottom is complementary to the eyes. The vase itself is quite interesting, that lovely sort of dark blue here. In a way, I kind of want to see more of that vase because it is interesting, the colour of it and the sort of gold rim of it here as well. And it's sort of, as it's sort of near the bottom, it tempts you to keep looking at it. So I'd like to see more of the vase itself, because I think it's as much as a feature as a picture as the feathers. And maybe if you wanted to keep it very small, to use a plain vase instead, so it's sort of less attractive to sort of view. But overall, you know, it's a different way of looking at it. So I think it works reasonably well. And that one got a feathers. That got an 8.
Autumnal stroll.
Yep, I think I've missed that pretty much. pull out the leaves this year. But yeah, lovely lighting on this one, isn't it? Going across the trees here, coming through, and the wonderful long shadows that you get in the autumn time here, stretching across the ground. And of course, it highlights all the lovely sort of carpet of leaves you've got here. Got a couple of sort of imposing statues as well. Rather goes with the grandeur of this tree of avenue of trees. The two go together. You can imagine that it's the sort of thing you put a grand statue in a sort of a lovely avenue of trees here. I think quite like the fact it's very dark at the back. I think if you had any light or thing, I think you would have taken out of pictures. So I think that having the dark hair at the back, I think keeps you very much in the picture. I think the figures are important. Okay, they're not that big in the frame, but I think that works. If they were very large, I think you would lose the size and the grandeur of the avenue itself. I think it's fortunate you can see them quite well in a way because they're carrying light coloured jeans, and I think the lady's wearing red. So though they're small, they do stand out. So that one got, sorry, I've got a bit to say there. I was going to say on the left-hand side, if you look at the trees, the tree branches, they're a little bit soft in focus. The trunks are sharp, but I think the branches themselves, I've looked a little bit losing their sort of focus here. Not on the right-hand side. So that was a sort of weaker point of the picture. They got an 8.
Learning the steps.
Yeah, this is a lovely study, isn't it, of a horse and trainer here. And he looks like he comes from another century, doesn't he, dressed in that sort of outfit there. But yeah, there's a relationship, isn't there? I mean, the way he's pointing to the ground and the horse is sort of pouring to where he's pointing. And the horse is concentrating, his ears are forward, and there's this, the man is leaning forward. And that sort of adds to that feeling of rapport here. Very dark background here, but I think, you've kept the exposure in the background, and certainly on the lovely horse itself. And just giving us enough room at the front, for the horse to sort of stand into here. So I say, it's almost quite a simple picture, but I think it works very well. I think that lovely horse deserves a gold bridle, actually, but I guess that's what they used to training in. But yeah, done very well. So that was a held back. Hello, I've got a little dog there now.
Wells, lovely Wells.
Wells, lovely Wells. Norfolk, I think, by the looks of it. Yeah. Again, lovely lighting, isn't it? You've got that beautiful reflections in the water here. Quite a vibrant red on the boat here. I think because of the sand, perhaps the mud, churned up kind of sandbanks. The reflection is quite muted of that red that you've got here. But I like the colour balance here, the red and the blue contrast, and you've got the blue and the yellow contrast. So, good choice of colours here. And you've even got a little egret. I won't dare say I don't think it's a pop-up egret. I think it's a real one, but it might be. But I think he's in a good space, isn't he? It just fills up a little space on the right-hand side. I don't know if the boat was really leaning on that bank there, or it's just an optical illusion, but it looks like it is. And he's sort of reaching to the tree line at the back. It's quite an interesting tree line. I mean, it's not a flat tree line. It sort of curves up and down. So it is quite interesting against that sort of sky here. I think, unfortunately, though, having said that, because you're leaning towards it, you look at the big area behind, and you almost needed something in it, a dog or some people, just to sort of fill in that space behind the boat. So it works to a point. That got a 6.
Riders, Petra.
Right, yeah, this sort of struck me, these two, that very different horse breeds here. One is quite sort of sturdy and reminds you of a Dale's pony with those feathers feet, and the other one looks quite sort of weedy, really. But you notice with the two rides, they're both quite casual the way they ride. It's very light touch and sort of control of the horse. But of course, what stands out here is the horse on the right has got that lovely sort of tack, brightly colours, against the more sort of traditional tack on the left. Like the shadows here of the horses, obviously quite low lighting in the day. And I like the fact the horse on the right is stepping on the shadow of the one on the left, but not sort of going over the head. So I think where you sort of course it is just about right. Got a hint, I think, of obviously the sort of landscape behind it. I see sort of, in some ways you sort of look at it and then it detracts a little bit from the horses. But But I think, unfortunately, if you remove it, you lose the shadow of the horses, and also you lose perhaps some of the atmosphere of the sort of environment of which they're actually in. So I think you probably would have to leave it in. But yeah, say, I thought it worked quite well. It's quite like, and I like the way they're looking at you as well. You've obviously caught their attention. They're sort of looking at you, but the horses are engaged in what they're doing. So that's quite a nice contrast here as well. So that was a 8.5.
Jackdaw.
Yeah, he's a bit of a fellow, isn't he? And I think the lighting here works. I mean, you've obviously got that lovely sort of glossy sheen that these black birds have. It's come across very well. It's almost sort of swept back, isn't it, on the sort of the forehead and the cheek, and the lighting is just sort of glinting very nicely off the beak there. You can imagine that sort of tearing its way into something here. It's got quite a strong sort of not vicious looking beak, but a sort of strong, sturdy kind of beak coming across here. And the eyes are amazing colour. I didn't know Jay's jackdaws had that amazing blue eye, and I think the light you guys really brought out that sort of blue that it is. Background, it's pretty out of focus here. Perhaps a wooded area, but it doesn't detract from the bird itself. Quite like the fact that he's looking round at something again. Perhaps he's seen something and he's a little bit wary. But yeah, adds interest to the picture here. Don't think it matters. You can't see all of him. I think the head area and the eyes is probably it has interest enough on its own to sort of keep you looking at it. Don't mind the foliage at the front. I just kind of wish that we hadn't got these little white spots in here. They are a little bit distracting. I suppose if you're very patient, you can sort of darken them all up, or maybe just sort of crop the bottom bit. Don't think you would lose much of the birds, but it will certainly give them a bit more prominence and sort of take your eye away from the distracting sort of white circles in the bottom here. So he got a 7.5.
Deer at Holcombe Hall.
Yeah, this one here, yeah, lovely sort of study these two little, I think they're fallow deer. And I like the fact you've got one sort of eating away and one very alert, ears are forward and looking out for someone or something. Not too sure, but you've got that lovely comparison here. And I think it's fortunate you can see all the legs of the deer behind, sort of underneath the front one here. Otherwise it would probably look a little bit disjointed. Background again, quite a scrubby woodland or something, doesn't detract, but you get a sense of the environment across here. Like a little flick of the tail, I think, on the one at the front. Lighting quite soft here, but again we've got lots of detail in the fur of the small one at the front here. It's a shame about the sort of branch that's sort of across his face here. It's just unfortunate he's probably put his head down just at that wrong moment as you click the shutter. But apart from that, I think it works pretty well. He got a 7.5.
Iced lily.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting idea here, using ice instead of water as a medium for showing off these flowers. Quite like the levels of diffusion here. I think you're probably right to use the centre one as the one that's least diffused. And obviously you've got sort of strength in the picture because you've got the two outside ones are on diagonals here as well. So that adds some interest to the picture here. I think this one, I also can see the ice on the right hand side. I would like to see that sort of pattern of ice on the left hand side as well. Because I think you've got more sort of depth on the right hand side because you can see it, and it's a little bit flat on the left hand side. And I think that will just finish off the picture a little bit. I mean, it says it's in ice, but it seems to me the only thing that's really, really showing in ice is the stamens here. So it works again, I think, to a point. That one got 7.
Night sky over the temple at Loxwell.
Yeah, very sort of a dramatic building, isn't it? It's quite a sort of a monstrous kind of beauty, really. And they look huge. You can tell by the size of the people here, sort of milling around in front of the screens and sort of walking along there. I like the fact you've got the people going through those sort of two enormous sort of posts in the middle here. You know, it sort of leads you through the picture here. And quite a mixture of lighting. You've got some night lighting and artificial lighting, but I think you've handled the exposure well. And we kept lots of details and shadows in the buildings themselves. I wasn't sure about the moon. I mean, you may have generally been there. I do find it very, very detailed, and in a way, because it's so detailed, I think you're distracting a little bit from the buildings themselves. I know it's called night, sort of the night vision here, but I think it's the buildings and the sort of statues and the relationship with the people I think that we want to look at the most. Also, I would say that some of the figure on the right-hand side is getting a little bit lost in the sky as well. So maybe the moon just needs to be sort of toned down slightly, or maybe just not keep it at all, and sort of start to just to the right of the sort of the centre part of it here. So I just find the moon a little bit distracting, but sort of love the colours of the sort of stonework that you've got. That one got a 7.5.
Swan in spring sunshine.
Yeah, it's obviously doing something here, preening itself here, and the light's caught it very well, especially through the feathers that it's sort of preening here. And I like the light falling on the neck, sort of brings out the lucky sort of downy sort of feel of the neck. Obviously, swans are quite hard to take, and you know, invariably they tend to get areas that you lose the detail on, which I think has probably happened sort of at the back here. So they're not. It's quite hard to get details on swans. Like the fact that you can see the eye sort of just through the feathers here. I think that's important because it's, you know, I think without it you'd get a little bit lost in the sort of the feathers and the sort of the colours of the colours of the white. So I think that touch of black and red or black and orange I think works very well. The reflection is quite interesting. I mean, I'm not sure it's the same swan. You seem to have sort of 3 beaks here. I'm not sure it's that swan or swans around it here. In a way, because it's quite an intense reflection, I think it's almost fighting a little bit with the swan here for your attention. And I kind of think I mean, obviously you've got a lot of black around it to make the swan look quite sort of stylized, I think. If we had perhaps more water, maybe the reflections would sort of become a bit more diffused, maybe not fight so much with the swan. But yeah, overall, I think it works. I'd say it's just a bit of a battle between the two elements here. That got an 8.
We take one more image, Jill, and then we'll have a short comfort break.
Okay.
Time warp.
Yeah. This is quite an unusual sort of picture here. I'm not sure who the characters are. I think they're probably from different centuries. One is obviously very opulently dressed, and the other one is quite plainly dressed, I should say, or simply dressed. And you've got these kind of quite weird characters. The one on the left has got this sort of plastic face. It's like a child's doll. And the other one is sort of a masked figure. So you don't quite know what they're all about. I'm looking at, I think there's a connections between a telescope and the, oh, what do you call them? The map things. Can't think what they're called. Scopes, not scopes. It's gone out of my brain. The round things with the maps on them. Or is he explorer? Is he an astronomer? I'm not too sure. The globe, sorry, that's what I was trying to get at. The globes. And then obviously you've got a link between the twin lens reflex camera and the sort of photograph. And maybe there's a link between, which I think is a mandolin, and the character on the right. I think the props have been well arranged here. The curtains and the sort of the drape over the table, they're sort of quite fitting with the two subjects here. Not so sure a bit about the front. I think it's a skeleton coming towards you. Maybe that represents the time warp, but I can't see it very clearly, and I think it's a little bit of a distraction. I think possibly it works okay with just the two figures in and the props around them. So that one got a, let's find my note. Got a 6.5.
How long are we going to have our interval for, Susan, do you think?
not quite so much, but it is on this. Anyway, this one, lots of quite a few different shades of green, isn't it? You've got a sort of a yellowy green at the front here, then you've got gradually going towards darker greens at the back. But even with that area there, you've still got sort of a different tonal range of greens here. So in terms of the colour green, I think it shows off those shades quite well. Gosh, too many S's in there, I think, isn't there? Shows off the shades. I thought the front bit was quite strong. You've got this sort of diagonal of the stem coming up, and you've got this V shape, and you can imagine some sort of trickling down from this V shape and sort of falling off the bottom. So I think that part works quite well. I mean, the colours at the top are quite interesting, but there is a lot of it here, almost too much, I think. So I think I've been kind to sort of crop half of it off, and then you still get that sort of difference between the sharpness and the diffusion that you've got here, and you still get the sort of different green shades. But I think you can focus more on the stronger part, which I think is at the front of the picture here. So again, it works to a point. And that one got a 6, that one.
The Ghost of Revo Abbey.
Right. I'm glad you have to say that and not me. Because some things I cannot pronounce. So I think, oh, I don't have to. Yeah, again, it's very Gothic, isn't it? Kind of abbey here. You can imagine sort of ghosts wandering about here. It's that sort of building here. Not a massive amount of light on it, I would say. Perhaps that works in this case. I think if you did, it would probably be a little bit distracting here. But you're a ghostly lady. You may not be able to see it on that, but she's sort of coming through the brickwork here. And she's certainly dressed in what I would think is probably appropriate for the age of the building here. In some ways, I think I'd probably made her slightly more ghostly because her face is still quite clear. Maybe see it was a more shadowy piece. I think that would add to the ghost effect here. You've got a bit of sky coming in at the top and a little bit on the right-hand side here. They do give a little sense of reality, and I'm not sure you really wanted it with this. I think you need to keep that sort of, sort of ghostliness, so to speak, in the picture here. Unfortunately, if you crop the thing at the top, you are getting very, very close to the decoration on the arches here. So probably just needed a slightly different viewpoint, so you didn't get that bit of sky in it. But overall, I think it's quite an interesting idea, and I like where she is and sort of the middle third here. I think that's the right position for your sort of ghost to come. And on top of that, you've got these little bits of light as well. So just lighting up a little bit of the, but not too much to overwhelm that sort of central figure. She got a 7.
In morning.
Right, yeah, quite a dramatic sky again, isn't it? Quite moody and looks like it's going to chuck it down with rain. I like the position of the boats here. I mean, there's sort of things that we have to take, aren't there? They're getting a bit sort of falling apart and tatty, and that's what photographers do. They like wrecks. I like the fact that you've got sort of one in the middle leaning to one side, and then you've got the black one in the other side. And then you've got a contrast between the boats on the left. One's vertical, one's almost horizontal, so you've got this contrast of sort of boats and things like that. I know it's quite an overcast day. You've still got some reflections in the water here, which I think add quite a nice touch here. Now the grasses, I thought the grass on the right hand side was about a sort of fairly natural colour. The grass at the front, they look a little bit quite a vivid green here. I find it a little bit distracting against those very muted tones of the boats. So again, I've probably cropped most of it off. And then I think the boats will stand out just a little bit more. Again, I think they're fighting a little bit with the green of the grass that you put at the front here. That one got a 7.
In the pink.
Yeah, it's a very delicate study, isn't it? Of these lovely flowers. Again, I have no idea what they are. But I think you've used sort of muted tones here very well. You've got a sort of lovely pink background here, echoed in the, what looks like probably could possibly have been a perfume bottle. Got those lovely sort of curves of the bottle here. And I think the use of the grey tone here, I think adds to the curves of the bottle here. I like the fact you've got different heights of the flowers here. You've got a bit of a diagonal with the ones on the left. And also like the fact you've got one on the right, which is fully open, and you've got some which are waiting to come out on the left-hand side here. I think it's important you've got the reflection on the shadow on the bottom here, because you don't actually have a base that you can see. I was thinking, did you need the base? I thought in a way if you did it, the sort of sharpness of the base might take away that sort of very sort of abstract feeling of the picture here, and also, but if you try to make it blurry, it becomes distracting. So I think probably the balance of using that reflection or that shadow, whatever it is, I think works in the picture here. I think it's about right. And that was a held back.
Drainage mill, Westwood Marshes.
I think this is in Suffolk somewhere. Yeah, I thought this one, I quite like the colours of the grasses here, these sort of browns and greens, possibly going towards sort of later in the year. And the softer colours here, you know, they contrast quite well with the greens on the left here, the darker greens, and possibly a tree line or the land sort of beyond it here. So you've got various sort of shades of darkening sort of growth in the picture here. Quite an interesting sky, you know, the sort of the broken up grey clouds here against the sort of muted sort of orangey browns at the bottom. I think, unfortunately, although there isn't much sort of light hitting the building, so to speak, or the ground, I think there's quite a lot of bright areas in the sky, and I think it's maybe fooled the meter a little bit. So you've ended up with quite white patches in the sky, and it's sort of taken the, it's darkened down the sort of the building in the middle here. I mean, you could probably lighten the building, but then you'd have to work on the sky itself. So I think that's probably its weak point. I think, so the exposure on the sky, I think, has affected particularly also your building here. It's a shame, really, because the building itself, I think, is in a good position against that sky and sort of thirds of the picture here. That one got a 6.5.
Mantling kestrel.
Right, I'm not sure what mantling means, unless it's sort of capturing something and holding it down. So I've never actually seen a kestrel sort of in this sort of position, but you know, I think it works very well. I mean, it's sort of holding on to this wonderful branch here, and I think the light has worked very favourably here. I mean, it's brought out the lovely sort of textures of the feathers here, sort of, and I think it's sort of possibly happening here because the feathers at the back all look ruffled up, and I like the way the light goes through the feathers in the tail here. And you've got the sharpness, I think, in the branch that it's on. I mean, that in itself is interesting with the sort of textures and the liching growing on it. And I think you needed the sharpness because it leads you very directly to the bird's sort of head here. I think it's a very important part of the picture here. It's obviously eating something, I don't know what. And I like the fact you can actually see his eye as well, just sort of poking out beneath the wing. Background, pretty much out of focus. And I think the colour there is complementary. That green sort of shades of it's complementary to the liching on the branch that he's on. So that one was a held back.
Wet weather feather.
Yeah, this was a very sort of lovely picture here. I mean, often you see feather, you often see leaves with raindrops on, but not often feathers. So yeah, I think this is rather delicate, rather lovely. I like the fact that the feather isn't solid. It's got the lovely sort of fronds coming out the side, obviously where the water is separating it. I think that works very well. And I like the fact that you've got different depths of sort of water droplets here. I like the fact they go from sort of quite a lot at the bottom to very few at the top. And I think because you've got less at the top, they do stand out very well against the feather itself. And I like the fact you've got a little one just on the left-hand side, and the light's just hitting it. And also, I think it helps that the thing that it's on just curves towards the rest of the main feather here as well. And again, the background, I think, works well. It's quite a muted green, but that sort of lovely sort of silvery grey does stand out very well against it. So that was a held back too.
The sea's rough today.
It certainly is rough today. Yeah, I mean, I think you've probably used the right shutter speed here. That you've kept it sharp. I don't think you needed blur. I think you would lose that sort of impact of the sort of fierceness of the waves here. And I like the sort of fact that you could see underneath the waves that sort of greeny, sort of churned up colour that you get. Don't think you need any more sort of sea in it here. I mean, you can see the crashing waves, and I think if you had it beyond it, you'd sort of go out of the picture here. Pretty much the same for the sand. You know, it gives something for the sea to go into, but it doesn't sort of take your eye away from that sort of scene where you've got the person and the waves here. And obviously you can't see their face here, but I think they're sort of standing with their arms folded. So it's a bit of a story there. Are they going to venture in, or are they going to stand there, or are they just enjoying the waves? It's a bit of a story you can think up here, however you wish to interpret it here. I don't think I'd go in. It looks a little bit fierce. But yeah, I'd say it's that sort of relationship between sort of nature and person, isn't it? 8.5, that one.
Water lilies in steam at Q.
Yeah, I thought this worked quite well. I mean, the sort of the lilies, not the triangles. The lilies are in a triangle here, and you have obviously got some lighting coming through because it's lighting up from underneath. And the one on the left, I think particularly, you can see quite a lot of shape as the light's coming through underneath the feathers here. I think it's probably right you had the sharpness in the leaves at the front because that leads you to that first lily. So I think you needed to retain that sharpness, otherwise it'd become incredibly distracting. I think in a way, because you can't see the steam, I mean, it's probably there and it's diluted the colours slightly on the flowers, but it would have been good to see perhaps the steam coming up here, perhaps the fitting slightly more with the title. So I think it works reasonably well. I say it would have been good to see the sort of the actual steam that you're talking about. That one got a 7.
Seagull at Southwold.
Looks like an immature gull. That's not immature in that sense of the word, but a young gull, I think that's a kind of phrase. But yeah, the lighting's caught him very well, isn't it? Certainly brought out his lots of emerging colours here. And I like the way he's sort of looking around at you. He's got the little bit of catchlight in the eye here. Perhaps he's waiting for a chip or something to arrive. Who knows? That's what gulls do. But I think the lighting you've got here is very good because it's certainly giving you lots of detail of the sort of pebbles that he's on. So you can see the shapes and the colours very well. And I like the recession of the pebbles here as well. And, you know, you'll stop from going, actually got this dark area at the back, which I think works well with the bird. And I think that recession allows the gull to stand out, particularly in the foreground here. And I'm glad you've got the sharpness at the front as well with the pebbles and his feet, because he's quite close to the front of the picture. I think if you had blur it would be very distracting. He got a 7.
Strawberry Splash.
Oh, does that make you think of summer, that one? Yeah, I think it's been done well. I mean, we haven't got, I think it's the only still life we have tonight, a real total still life. And I like the way that, you know, the water is becoming slightly less sharp as it hits, sort of comes out of the glass here, as the sort of the droplets fly away. But around the strawberry itself, you've retained the sharpness here. And the lighting you've used has certainly sort of brought out the lovely sort of shape and colours of that. It's a really vivid red against that black background here. But the lighting itself, is, you know, you kept the rim lighting around the glass here. You can't see all of it, don't really think it matters. I don't think you want too much. I think it will detract from the water and the strawberry. So I think that balance is right. And I like the reflection of the little straw and the strawberry in the background here. Just add that little extra sort of enticing touch to the picture here. In fact, when you look at it, you could almost put your hand and eat that strawberry. That's the kind of impression that it gets. So that one was held back.
Peekaboo.
Yeah, a bit of fun here, isn't it? Very curious creature coming around the corner. Yeah, I'm sort of glad you kept his sort of feet just beyond the tree here. I think you've chosen the right angle here, so we can sort of see that. I think if you had cropped the feet, it would sort of upset the balance of the picture itself. And I quite like the grasses on the right hand side. Just fill a little space on that side here. It sort of gives us a bit of a balance with the size of the animal and the tree. I think the lighting here is quite strong, isn't it? I mean, you've got quite sort of colours coming out in the animal. You know, showing them off very well, and also the textures on the tree itself. I wonder if it had been sharpened up a little bit or enlarged, because I think it's a little bit flat, the fur on the animal here. You know, you've got the light, you've got the colours, but I think that sort of the texture looks a little bit one-dimensional here. And I think particularly sort of on the right-hand side of it at the front, I think that sort of comes across quite a lot. So that got a 7.
The persistence of time after Dali.
Right. Now I know he painted some strange stuff. I don't actually know the painting, but I think he used to have kind of things that were a bit unreal mixed with maybe 1 or 2 bits of reality, which I think is probably what we've got here. So it's an interesting idea. I think probably the mountains in the background and some of the trees may be real, and possibly even the skulls have been put in. They may have been real skulls, and you've sort of added to the picture here. And I think you're probably right not to have too much detail in the background. I think that would be quite distracting. So, you know, the sort of skulls, they're in a bit of a triangle, so I think that works quite well. I think the bird, I think he's a vulture or something. I think he stands out quite on his branch. And I can kind of correlate this sort of feeling of perhaps death with, so what looks like a vulture sitting on the branch. So that I can sort of understand. So I don't understand the painting, so the sort of concept of time. So that's probably slightly lost on me. I quite like the clocks in the sand here, and in some ways I think perhaps I've just, you know, I'd have kept the sort of the skulls and the vulture in, but maybe I'd have just kept the sort of sand clocks here, perhaps not some of the others, and then I think it would still work in its own particular way. That got a 7.5.
This is the last image. Undiscovered cassette.
Right. Yeah, an interesting concept here, isn't it, Mark? I mean, there's sort of skin tones looks like almost polished iron. It's probably not what it's intended to mean, but that's what it kind of looks like. And it's quite strange. If you look at it, you can sort of see one face with the eyes, and then the eye sort of belongs to the other face, and you can get quite, you know, the more you look at it, the more it kind of happens. And it's one of those things you can experiment with. I mean, you could have just remove the lips, or just have, you know, remove one eye. So it's something you can play around with. I think the colours in the background do sort of complement the ones in the front. You've got these sort of mauve shades in the background that sort of match the ones on the jumper here. I don't know if it's part of the picture or not, or whether it's the actual background here. Again, I suspect it may well be a painting. It may be a sculpture or something. I just think we needed something to tell us, you know, a sort of touch of reality here, you know, a sort of a frame or a base or something like that. I don't think we can quite tell enough from that picture here. So I think the colours are right, but we just need something to define it with, something that we can relate to. I got a 6. Nine held images. I'm glad we had 9 held images. That ties up with what I've got. Okay.
So do you want me to go through them one at a time, Jill? And then you can score them, yeah?
Okay, yeah.
Or... Oh, sure. Tanya.
9.5.
In snow.
That was 10.
Mind the gap.
There's some sadistic people around, you know. That was a 9.
Stag in sleet, Cairngorms.
That was another 9.
Learning steps.
That was a 10.
In the pink.
Oh, yeah, that was another 10.
No.
Okay.
Give it the right mark. Oh.
Oh.
I was too slow with the marking. Well, yeah, how to do this.
I'm back.
It's not letting me change it. Anybody know what I'm supposed to do here?
Scream.
You just hit the back key. I think you might just hit the back key.
That one.
No?
Hang on.
Oh.
I'm just looking at my my notes here.
Yeah, I haven't got mine handy.
Backspace, clear the mistake. Max first. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's try again. Yay!
Hey, here we go.
Susan.
Madeline Kestrel.
That was another 10.
All right.
She doesn't like the number 10. This was a 9.
Strawberry Splash.
And that was a 10.
Right, so now we will go to the 10s. And those are our 10s. Do you want me to go through them now, or we're just going to pick your pick?
Do you know who got the 10s?
You got the 10s and the 9s, that's fine, yeah.
We do that after judges pick.
No, you can do me if you like. I don't mind.
And a full house for Tori Andrews.
Well done, Tori. Well done, Jan, and well done, Rosie.
Jan Bond.
Well done.
Thank you.
The girls did good.
Girls did good, absolutely.
And Jill still needs to tell us her pick of the evening.
Yeah.
Ah, right. Well, it was a very close contest, actually. If you could have 2, I would have picked 2, but you can only have 1. So it's the one with the horse.
Learning Steps, Tori Andrews.
Well done.
Well done, Tori.
Thank you. Thanks, Jill.
Right, but the other one, there was a close second, very close seconds. If you want to know what it was.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Go back to 10s. It was the one in the pink. It was a very close second.
Oh, Rosie.
Well done, Rosie.
Rosie.
Very, very close second.
Well done, Tori. Well done, Jan, Rosie.
You could have had 2. You could have had 2. It forced us judges to have 1, you know.
Well done, everyone.
Yeah, well done, everyone.
Well done to Tori.
Steve, do you have something to say? Where are you, Steve?
You've run off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
I thought I turned into a teddy bear for a minute.
Sorry, you could do.
Okay, well, Jill, thank you very much. I thought your comments were frank and earthy and
That's a polite way of putting it. That's a polite way of putting it.
I'm slightly reeling for getting the lowest mark of the night. But,
Sorry.
Oh,
well done, everybody. Thank you very much. Not technically speaking our finest hour. Somehow it was all a bit disjointed, but I'm not quite sure. Sometimes it's smooth, sometimes it isn't. But well done, everybody, for joining in. Thank you very much indeed, Jill, for your time and your attention to detail. Much appreciated. So well done, everybody. A little round of applause for Jill, please.
I clap myself. Not clap.
Well done, thank you.
Right. I'll leave you to go down the pub then.
Oh,
that'd be nice.
Dream on.
Just as we finish off, a reminder: 2 weeks today we have